In the life, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, he knew where she was buried. She's buried at a place called Abwa. It's about an hour's drive from the blessed city of Medina. So after migrating to Medina, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I asked my Lord, I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for permission to visit the grave of my mother. But Allah prohibited me. Allah did not grant me permission to visit the grave of my mother. Then at another time, I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again for permission to visit the grave of my mother. So Allah granted me permission. So then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to visit the grave of his beloved mother. And he stood around her grave, and the companions also stood around the grave of the beloved mother of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Amina. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam cried due to his emotional feelings for his beloved mother, and the companions were affected by that crying of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so they all cried as well. After completing this visit, the Prophet ﷺ returned to Medina. Do you know where the Prophet ﷺ's father is buried? Huh? Where? Yathrib? Medina? The Prophet ﷺ's father passed away in Medina. This was actually the city or the land of the maternal relatives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's beloved mother Amina, her relatives lived in Medina. So Abdullah, when he was returning from a trade trip from Syria, he got sick in Medina. So the caravan people, they left him behind. They couldn't stay there any longer, and they allowed him to stay there until he heals, and then he could come back on his own to Mecca. So they left him. When they reached Mecca, they told Abdul Muttalib that your son Abdullah got sick in Medina, so we left him there. So Abdul Muttalib immediately dispatched his elder son Harith to go and bring Abdullah back home to Mecca. But by the time Harith arrived in Medina, he was told that Abdullah had already passed away and he was buried in Medina. So the grave of Abdullah is in Medina, and there are reports that the Prophet ﷺ used to visit the grave of his father as well. The Prophet ﷺ used to remember some things from his childhood as well, because in his childhood he did visit Medina at that time with his mother. His mother brought him to Medina when he was just a little child, maybe 3 years old, 4-year-old, something like that. So the Prophet ﷺ used to say, I remember there was a swimming pool here. Not like this swimming pool here, but there used to be a pond or a pool. And the Prophet ﷺ used to say that, I remember swimming in there. We learned swimming in there. We used to swim over there. So the Prophet ﷺ had some memory, some recollection of those childhood days in Medina as well. Our parents are indeed our gift to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should value our parents for as long as they are with us and serve them. Because once they're gone, your opportunity to serve them will go with them as well. So we should take advantage of that opportunity for as long as it is granted to us. It is indeed a gift and a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.